As you know, we are here this morning to celebrate Google Maps' 15th birthday. We have a few presenters here this morning. We've got Dane and Oren who will join us from Mountain View to talk about some product updates and the future of maps. But kicking it off, we have Noel. And sorry, just before we get started, just a reminder, this is all under embargo until 10 p.m. tonight, so please no posting on social media or any of your stories until that time. But kicking us off today, we have Noel Gordon, who is one of the co-founders of Google Maps. He's also a software engineer here at Google. And you may or may not recognise him. I haven't seen it, but I've heard he's in Australia's 200 national treasures, and you'll find his face in the Australian Museum. So you can go and find him there if you want a separate adventure. So without further ado, I will hand over to Noel.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I've been introduced as a museum piece, which is kind of a flattering thing to have. Your peers in the country recognise your work. The work we did here, Google Maps, 15 years, how time flies while you're having fun. This looks like the fun we started off with. So, February 8th, 2005, Brett Taylor put up a post saying, hey, we launched this website. That's how the web looked back then. A little bit funny, a little bit dinky. What crazy people would do this? Well, it turns out a bunch of Australians, myself, Stephen Ma, and the two Danish brothers, the Rasmussen brothers, Lars and Jens, we'd all known each other, got together in a pretty tough time in the tech wreck. If somebody remembers that, jobs are hard to come by, etc. And we decided we'd do something during this time. And this is what we did. And I love this photo because that's exactly the way it looked on the day of launch. Right? It's really funny to consider that North America is just floating on its own in an infinite blue sea. It looks a little bit funny, right? Okay. I wonder if people took us seriously. One of the things I remember about that day mostly is that we had what we considered a pretty amazing launch. We served something like 10 million maps on the very first day of our launch, so that was a nice result. A year later, we were doing 60 million maps a day. And today, something like over 1 billion people use maps every day, which is quite humbling. What I do remember is people didn't look at maps at about this level. What they did is they went right down to where they live to see what was going on in their area, which is something that we used in maps. Much later, when we launched Europe, or we did maps for Russia, when we only had Russian maps for Moscow, so we drew a line from Europe all the way to Moscow, and then put the map of Moscow there. And that's the way maps was done, incrementally like that. Because when we launched this, people said, oh, Google shouldn't be able to do this because they don't have, they haven't mapped the entire world. There was one little problem there. We didn't have all the world's data at that time, so we couldn't map it. Wow, what a journey when I think about it. It was a pretty big journey. This journey had to start somewhere, and it started here in Sydney, right? And it was pretty rudimentary when we looked at it, right? This is the earliest sketch I have from the Where To offices in Sydney, where we got our little thought bubbles and scratches out here that we were thinking about how we're going to build maps. And by this stage, over here on the left-hand side, we've already sorted out that we needed map tiles. And over this side, this part of the diagram is kind of interesting because it's talking about our map tile server that we already had worked out. And we took that and scaled it up later on. Another thing I like about this is this famous little A to B line. People often ask me what the hell that's about. Also, at A, we got our first introduction to Google and we demonstrated some C++ software to Larry Page, and Larry said simply, yeah, it's good, but we like the web. Right, so this little 2-week period here is where we took all our code and we moved it all to the web. Audacious. Who would do this? Could we do this? Could we make our maps work on the web? Yeah, we did, okay? During this time, After Larry said he preferred the web, by the time it got to be, something called Ajax had been invented in 2 weeks. What's Ajax? Ajax is called asynchronous JavaScript and XML for the technical minded. It means that what changed on that line was web pages were formerly static. They just drew a document and that was it. This little motion moved maps and made them interactive and fast in a web browser, and it made people take notice. Ajax is used by just about every website in the world today. It started the Web 2.0 movement, where the web was no longer old and static, it was now dynamic. So not exactly auspicious beginnings, but we had to start somewhere. And that's what I always liked about this project when we got together. So again, Stephen, Lars, Jens, myself, did this piece of work. Quite an interesting result came along. And another slide, please, Christine, is attention to detail. I think when I look at the way we drew maps, especially if you looked in the United States at that time, maps were drawn as just single solid lines. We decided to draw maps at a much higher level of quality. Maps at that time were available, but we called them cup of coffee maps. You used to click right, say, to go on your map, and you could go make a cup of coffee while the web page completely rendered itself again. Right, and by the time you got your coffee ready, your map to the right was available. You can see the intricacy of our drawing. Right, this is Spaghetti Junction, the SFO, all the roads going over and under and everything. We made sure that was all correct. So this was a really, we looked at the quality features of maps, and we thought they were just low quality. And we decided to lift the quality of maps in so many different ways. So this is just one example of the attention to detail that we added to maps at that time. So, attentions to detail. The other thing that was surprising about our maps is that we wrapped all this up and put it in a web browser. That had never been done before. And this made maps all of a sudden fast and fluid. And it was a completely different experience because no one had seen this on the web before. And once maps became fluid, that you could, you're not waiting for the coffee anymore, right? The maps, you can zoom in and out and et cetera, and that's made all the difference, right? That fluid experience was the most important thing about maps and what it did. This technology is called Ajax, as I said, asynchronous Java and XML. Next slide, please. Funny moments, the funny things that happen on the way to the ballpark. This is a picture of Google Maps being set in stone. The funny thing here that I remember is we had a lot of internal debate and a lot of external debate. What should we call this product? We started off as Google Maps. Google Maps and Earth won 6 Webby Awards. The Webbies are the Oscars of the internet. Larry and Sergey won an Oscar for Google Web Search. We won 6, we thought we were doing pretty good. And when you do your acceptance speech, you're allowed 5 words. Okay? So one of our acceptance awards speeches was maps, local, maps, local, maps. And this is a harking back to us deciding, what are we going to call this product? And we vacillated on the name a little bit until we said, enough. We set the name in stone. And for any of you who think this is Photoshop, it's not. I did originally. But it's actually on display on a pedestal in the Mountain MTV area, in the Maps area in Building 42. So we said, that's it. We're going to call it Maps. Another funny thing that I recall is the song. Does anyone know that people wrote songs about Google Maps? I'm not going to repeat it for you because my voice is terrible. But people were so excited when we released Google Maps for mobile, right? To have mobile maps on your phone. We did that in 2007. And they were so excited about it we started to write songs about it. And one of the songs went, I got Google Maps on my phone. And we thought this was crazy because no one had ever written songs about the software we'd written before. In fact, I don't know of songs that are written about software. So we really hit a note with people and they really loved Google Maps. Oh, other people who love Google Maps. The push pins. Yeah, other people who like Google Maps were, I remember one of the most fascinating things is when we launched Google Moon, right? We could take you to the moon. And of course, when you zoom in, what happens? It turns into Swiss cheese. But really, more importantly for me, is we got a message from Neil Armstrong in the Maps team at Google, right? When he saw, we put all the information about the lunar landing sites. And he sent his regards through to us and said, thanks very much. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. This is a pretty amazing piece of art too. So this is the pushpin of maps. It's become an icon. It's in MoMA, the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art in New York. Designed by Jens, 2005. Does a fantastic job of showing you something's right there and it's totally out of the way, not interfering with what you're looking at. It's a beautiful piece of design and it did become iconic. And as we'll hear from Dane later, we're going to continue working on that icon. It's our album cover. Apparently we've got a new one over here coming, which is lovely. Should be good. So Google Maps, 15 years, a lot of times passed. We had an audacious plan to map all the world's information and make it universally useful to everybody. Seems to have turned out pretty well. I think if I think of anything that summarizes Google Maps is that it made geography really ordinary. Okay, and that was probably the most revolutionary thing of all. Are we done yet? Probably not. So much work going on here, Sydney. The whole idea that it was conceived in Sydney, started in Sydney, and just reminds you there's a lot of thinking people here in Sydney that can handle technology, be Australian, adapt technology, innovate. And you've seen examples of it on the wall outside. Any more to do in maps? Sure there is. So much more work to do in maps. One of the most pleasing things I get is when I bump into engineers that are still working on Google Maps today, they say, I ask them how it's going, and they say, you know what? It's one of the most fascinating problems I've ever dealt with. And I really take that to heart because, like, as an engineer, you're curious about things. That's the characteristic of an engineer, I think. And to find that my colleagues, even after this time, are so fascinated, they feel like maps is an unfinished problem. There's just so much more to do, right? And I think today we're going to hear a lot more about what's happening, and we're going to be continuing, we Google meeting, working on this problem. And that's all I have to say to you, to welcome Maps to 15 years.
Thanks, Noel.
I'll grab my water.
So now we should have joining us, we have Dane Glasgow and Noel Oram, who are VP and Director of Google Maps, respectively, joining us from Mountain View. Here they are now. Hi Dane and Oram, welcome, and they're here to tell you a little bit more. Can you hear us? Yeah?
Yes, we can hear you. We just can't see you, but that's okay. Can you see us?
Yeah. Yes.
I can turn the screen off, hang on. I'll turn the screen on.
Okay. Cool.
There you go.
Ah, there you go.
Nice room.
Hello.
Maybe we could start with introductions.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dane Glasgow. I run product for Google Maps.
And I'm Gordon, I'm a product director on Google Maps, and I work for this guy.
Jump right in? Nope. Okay. Let's go back, I think. Can we go back? Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we're excited to share a bit about maps and where we've been and the journey we've been on, as well as share some announcements about what's ahead. Before we jump into it, I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge the really horrendous brush fires that are affecting Australia, and hopefully all of you and your friends and family are okay. A lot of us here have been following the situation really closely, and definitely hearts go out to everybody. It's a pretty horrendous thing. With maps, we've been on this amazing journey over the last 15 years, and as we were reflecting on the last 15 years, I thought it would be, it was sort of prudent to realize sort of what the world was like 15 years ago, when actually these paper maps were the dominant form of the maps that people used to get around in the world. And sort of a bunch of things that you would take for granted today weren't available. So, for example, when I reflected back on using maps back then, you had to remember where you were on the map and figure out how to orient yourself. You had to actually think about the directions and how to get around. And I often remember stopping at the gas station to ask for further directions and sources. And so, when you think about how far we've come in just 15 years, it's kind of crazy to think about where it all started. And one of the things that we did was we went into the Wayback Machine and looked at maps right around when it started. And one of the things that was interesting as we were talking to folks here about stories from the past and some of the things that they were working on was, one of the key things we were deciding was where to put the print button on maps. Because back then, maps weren't in your pocket. They weren't on your phone. It was something that you actually had to print out and take with you. And so, when you think about that, we've come quite a distance. Along that route, there have been some really great innovations and great milestones. The team has worked really hard to continue to make maps more and more helpful and more useful in everyone's daily lives. A couple of the highlights I would call out. One, we launched Street View in 2007, which brought rich imagery of the world to users and let them virtually explore the immenseness of the world. Another one was actually bringing real-time traffic to maps. It's kind of crazy to think about the fact that there was a period of time where we didn't have real-time traffic, and so a lot of these innovations have led to a number of big improvements. We were the first to bring the maps into your pocket on getting it onto your mobile device and making it easy for you to get around. And more recently, advancements in machine learning and AI have made it possible for us to bring next generation experiences for helping users get around, like Live View, which Oren is going to talk about just in a little bit. That has, as you think about all that progress, it's kind of culminated in some pretty amazing statistics. One, we've brought high quality maps to over 220 countries and territories around the world, helping people get around and explore and navigate in the world. Two, we've seen over 1 billion kilometers driven every day using Google Maps. It's become an essential part of how people move around the world. And finally, I would say, we're really excited about the fact that we've been able to bring so many businesses and places online and to help them get discovered and found throughout the world. In fact, we're approaching 200 million businesses and places around the world that are now on the map, which is pretty amazing to think about, all the different parts of the world coming together in one place. One of the things that I would say that keeps us excited and keeps us engaged on the problems of mapping the world is the fact that the world is constantly changing. I think sometimes it's easy to think about the map as something that's static. You create it once and you move to the next place. But in reality, the world changes quite a bit. New buildings are built, new roads are constructed. In fact, in some places, entire neighborhoods come online. And so as we see those things happening, it constantly pushes us to think about how we expand the map making and deliver a better experience for our users. Additionally, not only is the world changing from a structural standpoint in roads and infrastructure, but as digital technology is enabling all types of new forms of ways that people actually get around in the world. So just a few years, if you roll back, there weren't simple ride-sharing solutions. There weren't simple carpooling solutions. There certainly weren't as many scooters on some of the roads and sidewalks. And so when you think about like how fast that is changing, we have to constantly be improving and adding to the functionality and experience of maps to bring that great helpfulness to our users. One of the things that we've seen in this case is actually an increased number of users that are multimodal, that are using multiple forms of transportation to get around. And so a large part of the work that we're doing today is around helping users on those multimodal journeys and actually helping them think about the best routes for them based on the things that they use in their daily lives. Not only is the world changing, but people's expectations are also constantly evolving. When we started Maps, people would ask the question of like, what's a pizza shop near me? As we have progressively gotten better at answering that kind of question, users' expectations are also evolving. And you see, the questions get a little bit more fine-grained. So for example, you will not just what's the pizza shop near me, but what pizza shop is open right now? Which pizza shop is on my route home? Which one is crowded? Which one is the best match for me personally? And as those expectations rise, our technology and the solutions we provide through Maps have to meet those expectations. And so a lot of the work that we'll talk a little bit about later is along some of those lines. As we've been doing that, we've been working over the last few years to bring a lot more richness into the information about places. And so you'll see that we've been bringing things like, open times, what are the most popular times to visit a location, bringing in rich imagery and menus, so that people can really get to the best information about a place. And we bring that in from lots of sources, but one of the sources that I would say is certainly a key part of our ecosystem is user contributions. We get a lot of great information about the world every day from a number of passionate users around the globe. In fact, we get 20 million contributions every day from our users. Everything from ratings and reviews and photos, to new addresses, to new roads. And a large part of those contributions actually come from our local guides community. Our local guides community is over 120 million members strong. It's people that have self-identified as local experts who want to contribute to the map and to make the experience better for their communities. And so it's been it's a great part of the overall Maps ecosystem. Lastly, I would spend just a few seconds talking about the actual technology of map making. We continue to see and have pushed on sort of the next generation advancements to really bring the best map experience to our users. And we're seeing that shine in a couple key places. One is AI and machine learning have certainly brought a significant set of capabilities and advancements, and I'd say now is probably the time where we're seeing some of the most benefits from those technologies. A great example is that we've actually in the last year added more buildings to Maps in just the last year as we did in the previous 10. And that's coming from significant advancements in machine learning and AI. We also see this kind of technology coupled with our Street View imagery, making new and next generation navigational experiences and orientation experiences possible. And we launched some new things last year with Live View walking directions. We have even more things that are coming in that space. Ultimately, we are driven by our mission to assist people everywhere as they navigate and explore and get things done in the world. We are all incredibly passionate about that mission, and ultimately, recognize that this is a many year evergreen journey. We're never going to be done mapping the world. There are so many different facets and parts to the space, and we get very excited about all the possibilities. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Oren to share a little bit about some of the things that we're bringing out this week and in the months ahead.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit the product changes that you're going to see soon rolling out in the product itself. As they mentioned, we expanded kind of the mission of what Google Maps is and the types of problems we solve for our users. And so one of the first things that you'll see kind of different with the application soon is the app layout itself. And we updated a little bit to better reflect that mission, but then also to provide better access to the core capabilities of the application itself, and that is explore, commute, save, contribute, and updates. And I'll walk you a little bit through those. The first tab is what we call explore. And this is really about helping our users explore the world around them. As they mentioned, we have rich information such as reviews and photos for over 200 million places around the world. And that could cover things like restaurants to attractions to hotels and whatnot. Making maps a great tool for local discovery is a huge focus for us. And it's also a big part of how users are actually using the application today. And so with this Explore tab, we're trying to make local exploration a little bit easier for our users. The next tab is what we call the Commute tab. And this is about making sure that you're on your most efficient way without expecting any surprises. Once you have your daily commute kind of all set up, you'll get real-time traffic alerts, you'll get travel times, you'll get suggestions for alternate routes, which is particularly a feature that our users love. And one of the interesting things, and Dane alluded to this, that we're seeing with commute and with travel more generally, is that more and more users are using multiple modes of transportation to get to their destination. So you could walk to the train station, take a train ride, and then maybe take a ride share for that last kind of part of your journey. And this is an area of immense interest to us, and how we help our users with these multimodal type journeys is something that we're very excited about and expect to see a lot in this tab going forward. Next is what we call the Save tab. And this is about organizing the user's world. To date, our users have saved over 6.5 billion places in Google Maps. And that could be the bakery shop that just opened in your neighborhood and you want to give it a shot sometime soon. It could be a list of places that you want to visit in your next trip to Paris. What we did with the Save tab is put together all your saved stuff, your list, your saved places, your visited places, your timeline, but then also future things like your reservations and your upcoming trips, all sorted out neatly so it's easier for the users to recall and take action on those places. The next tab is about UGC, and Dane alluded to this in the first part. A huge part of how we keep Google Maps updated is with the help of our users and the community. With this new Contribute tab, we're making it easy for users to share their local knowledge. And that could be fixing a road, that could be adding a missing place. It could be also about providing their opinion about a place through reviews or photos that they add to the product. And you know, what's really great about this space is that it's open for anybody. Anybody can contribute. And in fact, we are seeing hundreds of millions of users every year contributing content to Google Maps, making it better for the next user that uses it. And so we hope with this Contribute tab, we make those journeys easier in the application itself. The next tab is what we call updates. This is where Google Maps would proactively reach out to the users and provide recommendations for great local places from local experts that provide that information, or by our own machine learning models where we think we found a place that's perfect for you. It's also an area where you can keep up to date with businesses that you follow or you contact. And that's another interesting thing that we're seeing more and more users use the app for, and that is getting things done and contacting and engaging with the local businesses around them. And so by organizing that information in the app, making it more accessible, we hope to make that journey easier as well. Next, it's about providing easier access to your account settings, and in particular to your privacy settings and Incognito mode. So you can easily choose the settings that are right for you. Over the last year, we introduced a number of changes in this area to help our users control their privacy. One area is what we call auto delete, where users can set the length of time in which your Maps activity is stored on your Google account, and after which that length of time will continuously delete the information and not associate to your account anymore. Another feature that we launched recently is what we call Incognito, where your Maps activity is not saved to your Google account at all. And so with this update, we want to make access to these settings easier so the users can actually choose the settings that are right for them. Now, besides kind of the updates to the app layout itself, we continuously try to find and build more helpful features for users as they engage with the product itself. One of the features we're announcing this week is what we call transit attributes. This actually builds on a launch that we did last year, which is about helping users predict how crowded their train ride or their bus ride is going to be. With this launch, we kind of expanded the set of attributes about those routes to help users better plan for their trips. So for example, we will provide you information about the temperature, helping you understand how comfortable that ride is going to be based on how users evaluated if it's too hot or too cold. Accessibility is an area that's particularly important to us, and so we'll provide users information about accessible entrances, accessible seats, and other type of related information. A women's section is a transit attribute we think is important, where we will tell users if there's a women's section dedicated on that transit option, and is that section respected by other passengers. If there's security on board, or in Japan only, we're actually going to tell users how many carriages are available in that particular train ride, so they can estimate if they'll find a seat available on the ride itself. And all this information is really coming from users who experienced those rides in the past, and sharing those experiences so that next users can better plan for their trips. Another area that Dane touched on is augmented reality. And last year we launched what we call Live View. This is an experience where we essentially show the walking directions to your destination overlaid on the camera itself. And the reception to this particular feature was great. Our users love this feature. It's particularly helpful when you kind of navigate and walk in unfamiliar areas. I'd say this is kind of the classic type of problems that we love here at Google. It builds on top of all the investments we did in Street View and in imagery and in machine learning and in phone sensors, and you bundle all that technology together to produce this beautiful, very simple user experience that solves a real world problem. And so in the next couple of months, we'll be expanding Live View to not only show walking directions to your destination, but actually give users a really simple way to see which direction and how far a particular place is in their world. And so you search for a place, you just pick up your phone and you can see kind of which direction is it and how far it is, and you can start getting your way. Now, lastly, as we reflected on this journey, on these 15 years, but more importantly, as we were thinking deeply about where we want to go with the product itself, we felt now was a really good time to update the icon itself. As you can see, the new icon keeps a really core part of something that was always there in Google Maps from the very first days, and that's the map in itself. But we also think that it actually reflects really where we're going with the product itself, right? It's not only about directions, it's not only about getting from A to B, but it's about helping you find new places to go to. It's helping you decide where is it that you should go, and ultimately helping you explore the world. And so we're extremely excited about this direction, and even though it's been 15 years, it really feels like we're really just at the beginning of this journey of helping our users navigate, explore, and get things done in the world. And with that, back to Dane to wrap things up.
Awesome. I think it's been a pretty amazing 15 years. We're really proud of and excited about the progress we've made in the mapping space. It's kind of exciting to reflect on the fact that this journey got started with Where To Technologies from Australia, and think about all the things that have come since that moment. As we look ahead, I think there are so many ways that we can continue to deliver great experiences to our users and more helpful experiences, especially as their expectations and the way they use maps has expanded so much over the last 15 years. It's really something that has moved from just helping people get from A to B to transitioning to helping them explore and get things done in the world. And it's been it's sort of a great opportunity for us to continue to deliver next generation experiences for our users that help them do those things. So thank you all so much for coming, and I think we have at least a few minutes for questions.
So we've only got a couple more minutes if anyone had any questions for either Dane or Oren.
Yeah, I have one. With Contribute, so if anyone can contribute to maps, what's to stop anyone from being complete trolls about it? How can you monitor that?
Yeah, so we get 20 million contributions a day, and in general, the intent of our users is very good. But we also send all of those contributions through detections for spam, detections for irrelevant or bad content, and we are constantly evolving those techniques and those technologies to ensure that great content makes it to the site. We also have a number of human auditors that basically audit the photos and reviews and content that's coming through the system to ensure that we do the best we can to get the highest quality content in front of our users on the product.
One example of bad data, as it were, was just in the last couple of days. There was somebody that was towing 99 Android smartphones in a little crate behind them and creating a false traffic jam. So I mean, is that something that your AI can detect? Because 1 minute there are 99 phones, but 5 minutes ago there weren't. I mean, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it's we think it was a very innovative and novel artistic demonstration. We have actually spent quite a bit of time over the last few years differentiating, for example, between four-wheeler vehicles and two-wheelers and motorcycles, so that we can, in markets where that's incredibly important to the dynamic of people getting around, that we can do that. We haven't quite got wagons on the list yet, but certainly if we see that become a more serious problem, we will address it.
Well, one of the biggest problems of maps is that when it shows you that there's a traffic jam, you get there and it's already gone. How can we make maps even more real time, faster, so that the information you see is ultra accurate?
Yeah. So, I mean, over the last few years, we've been introducing more capabilities for users to give us real-time information and reports. And when you think about traffic and traffic jams, we tend to take in a lot of different sources of information in order to reflect those. But giving our users even more ways for them to contribute and give us information is certainly one of the ways that we can continue to make our traffic and routing even more accurate.
Sorry, just one last quick question. Yeah.
You've previously brought features like Live View to Pixel first. I presume these are all going to be coming to Android and iOS in a simultaneous fashion. And what does this layout mean for your desktop Mac users?
Yeah, so the updates that we talked about for the mobile applications will be rolling out on both Android and iOS for the new framework and the new navigational modes. The transit functionality, as well as the new live view capabilities, will start rolling out in March, and with the goal of getting those to all of our platforms. But we will be rolling those out in a little bit more progressive way, starting in March. And as far as desktop, we don't have any specific updates on the desktop navigation today, but it is definitely something that we are.
It's an area of interest for sure.
Definitely looking at some things in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Cool. Thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, I can turn that off. We just have one more presentation. So Dane mentioned how integral local guides are to Google Maps and how they contribute to the map. And we are lucky enough to have a level 9 local guide with us today. She's from Sydney. Her name is Penny Christie. She's been to Connect Live over in the States twice now. Has contributed over 8,000 photos to Google Maps. Loves creating lists. I think she has 11 at last count. So she'll give us a bit of an overview, but I'm going to play a quick video of Penny, if I can make it happen.
Hi guys, my name is Penny Christie, your local guide from Sydney, Australia. I've been actively contributing to Google Maps since the program started a few years ago because I wanted to help the people who were helping me. Somebody once asked me what I do with all the photos I take. I explained to them that I upload them to Google Maps along with reviews so I can help people navigate the world around them and hopefully relieve a little bit of anxiety and stress about going to new places. Yes, I'm that person that doesn't let you eat your food until I've taken a photo of it. Knowing that my contributions on Google Maps helps other people all over the world makes me very proud. I feel like a secret undercover superhero.
So here to tell you more about herself and how she contributes to the map is Penny.
I hope you liked my silly little video. That was my application to getting to Connect Live last year. I had so much fun. I got to meet Dane as well. I'm a level 9 local guide and I live in Coogee in Sydney. A little bit about myself first. I start most of my days by taking a walk and doing a Pilates class to clear my mind and keep my body active. My favourite kind of food is Greek food because both my parents are from Cyprus and migrated to Australia back in the late 60s. When I was young, my dad bought me a little camera, like one of those little Kodak cameras, which ignited my passion for photography. It just gave me the freedom to create. And now that I have a camera constantly in my pocket on my phone, I literally take photos everywhere I go. You can see all the food and stuff mainly. When I discovered I could contribute to Google Maps, I thought it was the perfect place to add all of these photos that I was taking, because I've literally got like 80,000 photos on my phone. I started contributing to Google Maps about 4 to 5 years ago and immediately joined the Local Guides program because I loved earning points and badges. The reward system just seemed like a fun thing to do at the time. A local guide is someone who contributes to Google Maps with photos, reviews, and updates information. I like to edit them up and add new places and websites and things like that. I originally started contributing to Google Maps because I wanted to help the people who were helping me. If I'm going to a new place I have never been to before, I like to be prepared before I get there. I do all of my research on Google Maps, whether it's for a hotel, a shop, or even a different country. I get directions, I look at photos and read reviews. It helps me to plan my journey and keeps me from getting anxious. I've been very privileged to have been invited to Connect Live twice, in 2018 and 2019. Connect Live is the Local Guides flagship event of the year where 150 to 200 top local guides from all over the world brought together at Google headquarters in Mountain View in California for a huge 4-day event, which was a lot of fun. They treated us like VIPs, it was amazing. As far as I know, there are over 120 million local guides registered today, so I'm really happy and proud to represent Sydney, Australia at those events. I even made a little Aussie goodie bag filled with Vegemite, minties, eucalyptus lollies, and little koala key rings to share with all my new friends from around the world. They loved it. They didn't like the Vegemite though.
Should have put Tim Tams.
Yep. I did. I took packets of Tim Tams, which they do like those. But I just like to see the reaction with the Vegemite because they thought it was sweet. So that was just funny. It was an amazing experience to share with people from all over the world who have the same passion about Google Maps and the Local Guides program as me. I didn't realize there was this huge community around the world. From this event, I also became a member of the One Accessibility team, helping to bring more awareness about accessibility on maps. My favorite and proudest thing I have contributed to Google Maps are my photos. I have added over 10,000 photos and had them viewed over 76 million times. And that number grows every day. It makes me really happy. I like to see the numbers go up. It's pretty cool. My tips for someone who would like to start contributing to Google Maps. So sign up to the Local Guides program so you can start earning points and badges. Take photos everywhere you go. Make sure the photos are clear and well lit. Natural light is the best. Definitely no selfies or group photos, they will get deleted. And lastly, try taking a short video showing the vibe and atmosphere of the place as well. Being a local guide makes me really proud and brings me so much joy to be able to share my experiences and knowing that I'm helping other people along the way. So that's my experience with the Local Guides program. Thank you.
Thank you. And did anyone have any, just before we wrap up, any questions for either Noel or Penny about, the beginning of Google Maps or the Local Guides program? Awesome.
I have one question, maybe Noel will field it. What's the most surprising thing that you've seen out of maps in 15 years? What's in there now that you didn't think you'd see in there ever?
The tool shed. The tool shed.
Advertising on top of buildings. Facing upwards, right?
The one that people have put in there, and the ones that are being overwritten?
Possibly both, right? But I just remember in New York, some very adventurous person had worked out pretty quickly after Google Maps started, and that we added Earth and satellite pictures. And somebody said, "Hey, there's advertising space here," and they started to use it. And I thought that's something I hadn't thought of. And
I think IKEA in Tempe has a big IKEA thing on their roof.
Yes, I suggest everyone should have their logos on their roofs now, right? Because that's pretty cool. Yeah, that was one thing that was totally unexpected. But when you think about it, yeah, okay, you're taking a photo.
It's another place for a camera to point.
Yeah, so that was unexpected.
What feature did you most underestimate in terms of what it took to develop?
Oh, pretty much all of them.
Really?
Yeah, mapping all the world's data and making it accessible, useful, sensible, accurate, etc. is, as I said, is a really difficult problem. It's an ongoing problem, and all of it was to us, can we really do this? A little startup here in Australia and bring this up to the world. And we had this fortunate meeting with Google where we were very scrappy, Google was very scrappy, and they were looking at innovation. We were too, and very happy to help us scale this problem up to global scale. Because when we started, we always realized, well, if we start here, we're going to have to go the whole way. And so it's all fascinating and new to us at the time, right? And we realized there were lots of problems. For example, I mentioned we invented a technology called Ajax, and it was pretty new to the web at the time, and there were probably security problems with that, but we didn't worry about it.
Just press on.
Yeah, just press on, because there were only 4 of us affected by this security problem at the time. So we thought, if this technology gets off the ground and does something, then the security issues will get resolved as we go along. So mostly, sometimes I think of it like it was kind of like the Indiana Jones development story, right? There's a part in Raiders of the Lost Ark where, the Ark of the Covenant's been taken by somebody, and he jumps on a horse, and they say, "What are you going to do, Indian?" He says, "I don't know. We're making it up as I go." Right? And Google was fantastic like this when we got together. Right? We were making it up to go, scaling the problem up. Fascinating problem. And as I said, when I meet engineers today at Google who still find this problem interesting, and you can see the things you've seen today, it really is a fascinating problem.
Was it Penny?
Yeah.
So is it a volunteer program?
Yep.
And what can you, how many hours a week would you spend on this, and what do the points and badges give you in terms of, I understand there's the 2 trips to Mountain View, but what's the kind of I'm really, really intrigued. I didn't know about this.
Well, basically, it is a volunteer program. It's we're helping build Google Maps, as well as the real people who do it. I guess they need all of us to contribute so it can be what it is. The point system is basically just that, just points so you can see your progress along the way to keep you contributing, I guess. There's no monetary value or anything like that. Every now and then you might get surprised and Google might send you a little perk, like a pair of socks or, you know, some stickers and stuff like that. They might give you, if you're in America, they might give you subscription to something or to Google One. But they're just little surprises that are unexpected. The trip is the biggest perk, and obviously thousands and thousands of people apply. So yeah, you just got to be consistent, and they know who you are. Like, we get there and they know who we are and, you know, where we come from. They literally know everything about us because they Google. And you're like, right? Exactly. So, but it's pretty exciting because they treat you really nicely, and the program, the badges are basically just, you know, your progress, so you can see how you go and so you can get excited, I guess.
Like within the community,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
you know, kind of like
Yeah.
different patterns in terms of how long you've been doing it and that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, how many photos and videos, and you can add roads as well, because there are a lot of countries. Last year, the Street View team were really nice enough to give us 360 cameras, because there were countries like Afghanistan and the African countries where the Google car can't get to. They're not allowed. So they wanted to give these local guides a camera to be able to go and make these roads for Google Maps, which was really exciting. So yeah, these are just things that they do to get us involved, I guess. Yeah.
And are the trips fully funded?
Yeah.
So with the 2020 is meant to be the decade of extended reality glasses. I mean, we saw with Google Glass and some of those early ones at CES, they can point arrows and things, but your labs must have, I don't know, more advanced glasses with, you know, more of that AR stuff, but in a much richer way than we've seen to date, and that presumably is one of the big things that will happen this year.
Yes, and you've got it in one. Technology continues to push on, right? Provided it's useful to people.
Yeah.
And you saw that like markup of augmented reality while you're walking around a different place. I think that's fantastic. That just gives you what basically Google Maps wants to do, give you some confidence in navigating your world.
How quickly in its early development did you start incorporating mobile data? Because at that time, of course, the web was desktop.
Yes.
By and large.
Yes. Mobile data happened in 2007, right, where we took the data and we put it on mobile phones at that time. And so it happened pretty quickly after we launched. We launched countries at a rapid clip, and we pushed the technology into mobile phones at the same time. So during that time frame, 2005, 2007. So it happened within 2 years of us starting. We'd always thought that mobile was the ideal platform for Google Maps. Having maps in your pocket sounded like a great idea, right? Today it's a reality, and it's obviously makes sense. But at that time, phones were a bit underpowered. So we decided, like, okay, we got to start somewhere again. And you know, with so many places we could start, we'll just pick one and begin.
Well, iPhone was one of those places.
Yeah, it was, right. And Time magazine, when they were talking about iPhone at the release, said, you know, having Google Maps on that phone is like worth the entry price alone. So, you know.
What was the first mobile platform for maps? Was it the Java apps that used to run on the old Sony Ericsson handsets?
Yeah, really old. They predate smartphones, right? Smartphones seem obvious.
Well, they were the smartphones of the time.
Yeah, they were, yes. And when you compare a picture to today's smartphones to back then, it looks like, you know, there's been an amazing change in technology. So, yeah, it was harder, much harder in the pre-smartphone period. Once smartphones came, it was just easy, much easier. Technology moves on and we adapt to it, and now you all have phones.
Awesome. With that's it. In the birthday cards that you have on the table, there's a link in there, and we have a drive where we'll have imagery, all the logos, all the assets and photos from today, as well as the presentations. So you'll get copies of all of those. If you have any other questions or if you'd like to talk to someone further, please let me know. And thank you so much. And make sure you check out the lens wall if you haven't already, just outside. But thank you so much for your time today.